Ha Sangyoga Vyoganta. This is a saying of the Buddha. That means ah, all meetings end with departing. All of the meetings end up with departing. So this is a very important teaching. This is, in fact, we can repeat in our mind as a meditation. This is about separation. We come to this world alone with nothing. We don't even have a piece of cloth. We come with nothing alone. And then while we live, then we accumulate people and material things. We become attached to things and people. So first we become attached to our mother. Soon after we conceived in the mother's womb, so we connect with the mother. We haven't seen the mother yet. Mother hasn't seen us yet, but we are connected. There's a great deal of love and attachment. And then we come to this world. Then we see our mother, father, other grandparents, siblings, friends, relatives. As we grow older, we become our friends, and as people get older, they have spouses and get married, have children, and then grow older, grandchildren. In the meantime, accumulate wealth, large or small, whatever they have. And then we leave alone with nothing. If anything, we take with us the good and the bad. Karma accumulation goes with us. So, in the meantime, from the birth to death, so sometimes our parents, teachers, friends, relatives, they leave us, they depart, or we leave them, one way or the other. So the meetings we have in this world after birth, it is very short. It is not a long-term relationships, but we have sometimes long-term relationships with 10 years, 15 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years sometimes or more. But it is not that very long. It is very short. In the meantime, sometimes we have relationships very few days, few months, also very short, very, very short. So this teaching of the Buddha is about life and death. So it is a meditation. Meditation on death. This is something not very pleasant for many people. One monk told me that he went to a sermon in a house. There were many people gathered, And there were some young children, young teenagers also. And then the monk spoke about death. And then after that, those teenagers, the children have told their mother, that's a very negative talk, very negative talk. So it is not very welcome thinking or talking about death. But it is because we are afraid, the fear of letting go. So why, first of all, let's see what is this death anyway. Death is the separation of this consciousness, life expectancy, and the temperature of this body. Once this life expectancy is over, temperature goes away, consciousness leaves this body, and it is no longer, it has no life, lifeless body. We call it dead body. So this is, we see this so often. Uh, Not only human beings, other beings too. Whatever a being is born to this world in different forms, sometimes they are born in eggs like birds and so, and others are born in a mother's womb, and other beings are born in some moist places, and all these different life forms, they are born and they die. So this, in the teaching of the Buddha, the death has, it comes in different forms, in different stages. Like it's like a oil lamp. Life is like an oil lamp. To have an oil lamp, we need three things: the lamp itself, the base, the pot or whatever that we put oil in, and then little cup or whatever that may be. And then it has to have a wick, and then it has to have oil. That cup or that lamp, and then the oil and the wick. There are three things come together, then we can have a lamp, light. It is like that, this body and the life expectancy, and then the vitality is a force of karma. Once we have these three things, then this light of life, it keeps on going. The lamp, the oil, the wick. In the same way, the body, the life expectancy, and consciousness. When we have these three, then life goes on. So this the lamp can light can go out in different ways. Sometimes oil burns out, finished oil, but the wick still there, the lamp is there, but there's no more oil. That light goes out. Sometimes there's still some oil left, the lamp is there, but the wick is burnt out, and the light goes out. Sometimes the wick and the oil both finished, then light goes out. Sometimes everything is there, light, the lamp, the oil, and the wick. All of a sudden there's a heavy wind or rain or something comes and then light goes out. It's like that sometimes this life expectancy is still there, but the life support, the karma is not strong enough to keep it going. Then this life goes out, we die. Sometimes karma support that is there, but life expectancy is over. Then we end this life. Sometimes they both finished and then life goes out. Sometimes everything is there. Some accidents and things can happen. Then we end this life. So the death, we are scared of it. Why? The reason is because we have so much to do, unfinished business. So how can I end this life without finishing up all these things I have to finish? I have to go to work, take care of some business there. I have to do certain things to take care of my family, my children, my property, my house, and then myself. I have to do this and this, so many things. I want to, then I have to finish them. Death can wait. It's not a big thing to worry about now. I have to finish these things. Then all of a sudden things happen, and then we become aware of, oh, now it seems like I don't have too much time here. Then we become scared. Why? Because we have to leave everything behind. We have to leave everything behind. Then what happens? Uh, the fear. Fear arises. So, but in reality, the death is there right when we are conceived, right at the time when we are conceived in the mother's womb. The death is right there at that moment. So birth and death are not too far away from each other. Death comes with birth. Birth is come with death. So now it is said in the teaching of the Buddha is like a very big giant, very ferocious, scary. A man, a person is holding a sword right behind us, and it is raised now. It's a matter of drop it on our neck. That he is walking every step of the way in our life, every step of the way. This scary, huge giant is holding up this huge sword raised, just waiting to drop it on our neck. He's walking behind us every step of the way, but invisible, invisible. It is invisible as long as we live in delusion. We are lost in this world. So long as we are lost in this world, thinking that I'm going to live here for a long time, then death is invisible. That giant, that murderer behind us is invisible. So we just go around doing our things, sometimes very foolishly. When the greed, selfishness, craving, aversion, jealousy, ill will, anger, hatred, conceit, arrogance, these defilements come and take over, and our hearts and minds are suppressed by these defilements, taken over. Then we do foolish things, very foolish things, because we don't have the understanding. Minds are very cloudy, defiled, delusional. So we do things with defilements, killing, stealing, committing adultery, lying, gossiping, slandering, harsh words, and drinking, doing drugs, hateful towards others, excess greed for things that belong to others, and wrong views, do all kinds of things. Then they are called action karmas, wrong, bad karmas. When we do these bad karmas, what happens? Then they bring us down to lower realms. According to the teaching of the Buddha here, that all these animals in the world, like let's say elephants, bulls, horses, cows, and pigs, and chicken, and goats, and birds, serpents, and crocodiles, and fish. These beings in this world, animal world, and also beings are in hungry ghost realm. Beings are in hell. They all have been one time or another human beings. They have been born human beings. In some religions, the creation of God, believing that they don't have this kind of concept, but that these are teachings of the Buddha. He explained as seeing and knowing through his wisdom and knowledge. He said. So what happened here? These beings were human beings at one time or another, just like us, but they were overpowered by this foolishness, ignorance, delusion. They couldn't maintain the purity of their heart and the mind. And then those unwholesome karmas, defilements, dragged them down to those lives. So here in this life, when we live here, it is very important to remember this death is inevitable. Life is uncertain. So this is a meditation. But we want to forget about this because it makes us worry, scared. But teaching of the Buddha explains that if we can pay attention to this reality, this truth, it helps us to see things clearly. Instead of being delusional, acting foolishly, unwisely, we can turn our lives around. Of course, we can make mistakes because the potential is there: ignorance, delusion, greed, hatred. These defilements are within us. It is very possible we can make mistakes. But in the teaching of the Buddha, there is a chance, there's a second chance. we can turn around. We can turn around. It's called Ayati Sangvara. Ayati Sangvara means disciplining again, once again. There was a Buddhist nun at the time of the Buddha. She said, um, you will try on this path. You try on this path on the, of the Dharma in the practice. You might lose your foothold and fall. You can get up again and again, yet again. So that's how we have to practice. We can lose our foothold and fall, but we have to get up. We have to get up and continue on the path. So that's what it is, the beautiful nature of the practice of the Dharma. We can make mistakes, but we can turn around, come out of that situation even with better understanding and more wisdom because of the experience and pain and suffering we experience through our mistakes. But if we keep repeating those, then it is not a mistake. It becomes intentional. The practice of the Dharma is very important. This thinking of this life, all meetings end with departing. That means we are here temporarily. This is not a permanent place we have here today. This is a very short, a guest house we are living in. We will have to leave this place. So when we leave, it is important we have something useful, beneficial for our trip, long journey on this cycle of birth and death. So now we again, when we don't see this, the murderer behind us holding this very big sword, we can never defeat him. We can never defeat him. We may try, but we are definitely going to. The murderer is going to bring down that sword sooner or later. We don't know when, we don't know where, we don't know what time, and we don't know how. But inevitably, certainly, he is going to take us. Death is certain, life is uncertain. This is a meditation. If we keep practicing remembering this more often, then what happens, this helps us to improve, develop three qualities. One is sati. Sati means mindfulness. This helps us to be aware of the present moment, that we have only this moment to live. We don't know. We normally think people who practice the Dharma may think sometimes I am not going to have this life forever. People have that sense, understanding. Some people live without even thinking that they are going to die. Some people live thinking that they are going to live forever. Even when they go to a funeral, another person's funeral, they think, oh, that person is dead. That's all they think about. But the Buddha said, when you see a dead body, it's not only a human body, any dead body, even if it is a fly or anything, that living being is dead. Buddha told us to think, ayampi ko kayo. Evang Dhammo. This body is also going to be like that. This body also going to be in that nature. This body is not exempt from that nature. So that's what Buddha told us to think when we see a dead body, human being or any dead body. So here, when we keep on up with this practice, so we are going to become aware of this, how short this life is, how uncertain this life is. And then we gain wisdom. That means to see. There we begin to see that murderer behind us because we gain wisdom. As long as we live in delusion, we are not going to be able to see that murderer behind. But once we begin to gain some wisdom, we begin to see that. So now we just do our everyday normal things, knowing that this guy behind me is going to get me sometime, someday. So I know I have no escape. What I can do here now, behave the best, not giving a chance to that person any sooner than it should happen. Behaving very carefully. I can spend my life now. That wisdom is very important. And then the Sangvega, next thing is Sangvega. Vega means speed, Sang means wholesome. Wholesome speed into the practice of Dhamma. I can speed up my practice of the Dhamma. What is here practice of the Dhamma? Is learn to let go. Learn to let go. So what is the refuge we have here in this world? Sometimes people think, oh, my wife is my refuge. My husband is my refuge. My parents are my refuge. My children are my refuge. My wealth is my refuge. All of the people I have, there's hundreds of thousands of these escorts or people around me as my refuge. But in fact, true refuge is the Dharma, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the triple gem. Once we understand this, then we can let go of other things easily. Because in the end, none of the other things or persons can do much for us. But if we have the Dharma practiced, accumulated good karmas, developed mindfulness, wisdom, understanding, and then compassion and all these qualities, then that Dharma is my refuge. Once we truly accept and understand the triple gem is the ultimate refuge, even if the whole world abandon us, we can still find comfort and peace, happiness, because the triple gem is not too far from us. We can find within ourselves. So this is the important thing about that understanding and remembering. Meetings end with departing. That means this life is uncertain. Death is certain. Once we get used to this, what happens? we may become scared, fearful when we think about this in the beginning if we are not used to it. But if we become familiar with this reality of life, then that fear gradually evaporates. It's like a piece of big chunk of ice we keep outside. It melts slowly, gradually, and then evaporates. This fear is actually is not real. Fear is like that big chunk of ice. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. Roosevelt said that. There's a good large piece of wisdom there. This fear is like that big chunk of ice. Uh, as long as it is in the freezer, it's not going to melt. It's going to become bigger and bigger and fill up the whole freezer. But once we take it out, it starts melting away. It's like that. This fear is the delusion. Ignorance comes with clinging and attachment to things and people. But once we start flashing the light of wisdom, the heat of this wisdom into this fear, the chunk of ice of the fear of ice, then starts melting away. Then fear becomes less and less and less. Eventually, we become fearless. Lord Buddha said, there are few people who are not fearful of death. That is Buddha himself and the Arahants, because they don't have any attachment to anything. And another person is one who practices meditation, mindful contemplation of death, becomes fearless.